I picked the wrong winner, but there were no losers there. See, I'm not trying to be cute here, but there were no losers there. And as I said, I'm not trying to get out of my pick. I picked Wilder. Fury won. But I picked a winner. I just picked one who couldn't fight. And here's the funny thing. I said that when I was picking it. I said it. I said, listen, Fury is a much better fighter. He's the easier pick. He's the much better fighter. It's not even a contest. He's a better fighter. But, damn, on that night, he knew how to behave like a great fighter. And he did it because of what I said and why I gave him a chance. Why I picked him. I said it even when I picked him. You know, as I said, that I know I'm picking against a better fighter. But I picked Wilder because of what I referenced to in the Rocky movie, the third one I believe it was, when, and sometimes movies depict real life. They do. And in the third Rocky movie, we talked about it. You gave me the right name. Rocky was getting ready after a lot of title defenses, was getting ready, making a lot of money, being champion for a while, just like Wilder. He was getting ready to fight Clubber Lang, a very serious guy, like Fury, very serious guy. And Mickey didn't want him to fight him. Mickey tried to talk him out. And he said, no, I'm fighting him. Why are you against this, basically? You know I don't get the verbiage perfect, but why are you against this? I'm the champ of the world. I'm the best in the world. I'll beat him like I beat everyone else. And Mickey said, this guy's different. This guy will knock you into tomorrow. And he said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? He said, you were fighting a bunch of setups. They were, and he said, what do you mean? What do you mean? They were fixed fight? He goes, no, they were hand-picked guys. And then he said something that I never say about any fighter who gets in the ring. But on television, you can, for a movie, you can say it. He said, they were bums. They were setups. They were hand-picked. This guy will knock your block off. And it was now, all of a sudden, Rocky Balboa had to wonder who he was, who he ever was. Was I ever champ of the world, or did I fight a bunch of setups? Was I ever champion of the world? Was I ever really worthy of being called champion of the freaking world, or did they set up a bunch of pins to knock over like you would in a bowling alley? And that's powerful. Wow! All of a sudden, who am I? Who am I? When I look in the mirror, who do I see? When I walk down the street, who am I identified with? Am I identified with the guy that fought a bunch of bums, as they said, in obviously in television movie parlance? Or is this a guy that ever had the right to be called a world champion? He was fighting for redemption. But redemption over him. Redemption over who he was. What he was going to be the rest of his life. And that's why I picked Wilder, because Wilder was in the same position. And very rarely do you have something of that power behind you. And let me tell you something. I picked the wrong guy. I'll say it again. But there's a reason why he kept getting up. There's a reason why he kept taking. There's a reason why even through all that he dropped the guy twice. And then he got hit. And he just kept, somehow something kept picking him up. That's what kept picking him up. He was fighting for the right to look in the mirror and see what he needed to see when it looked back. He was fighting for his sheer existence. You know, we as human beings, as men, we of course need subsistence. We need water. We need food. We have to have the blood run through our veins and pump into our hearts. We understand that. But we also have to have a reason to be alive. To do more than live. To do more than exist. To be alive. To matter. To matter. To matter. To have something that stands us out. That we can feel special about. That we can feel that we do have a purpose here. Part of his existence was to be world champion, and then all of a sudden that's in doubt. That's in doubt when he gets demolished by Fury. And now he's going to find out, as I said with Rocky, whether or not he ever was more than a paper champion. That he ever beat more than a bunch of storefront mannequins that were lined up for him to beat. That when the blood runs through his veins and into his heart and pumps, what is it pumping into? Is it pumping into a man who's a champion? Or a man who just found a way to knock off a bunch of pins because he could punch like hell? He was fighting for much more than a purse, much more than a title. He was fighting for his identity. He was fighting for his soul. Because at the end of the day, a man without a soul is nothing. Is really nothing. And what is the soul? The soul is what you believe. What you believe you are. What you believe you have the right to project. The right to stand there and say, "Hi, this is me. I'm here. I'm champion of the world. I count. I matter. I'm significant." And that's why I picked Wilder. And again, I understood I was picking against a better fighter. And Wilder would have won, despite all of that. Except for one thing. He was fighting a guy who also had been on a mission a couple years earlier to find significance, to count, to matter. Fury was a guy who, after winning the linear title against Klitschko, he went on a 3-year downward spiral of drugs and booze and just destroying himself. Self-doubt, maybe self-hate, everything. And he got to a place that you wish on nobody. On your worst enemy, you don't want. If you're half a human being, you never want a person to get to that place where they're suicidal, where they want to give up the greatest gift anyone could be given, the gift of life. That he wants to give that up. He no longer wants to be on this planet. And then he gets, after 3 years off, people forget how long he'd been off. 3 years off. Through all this, he comes back and he fights the hardest puncher on the planet, Wilder. And he gets dropped, he gets up, and then he gets dropped again in the 12th round. And he looks like he got shot by a 30-6. He's laying there like he's gone. Thank God there was a competent, I'll say it again, a very, very competent referee. Because a lot of referees would have waved it off. Wrongfully, but we would have been past it. We wouldn't be talking about Wilder and Fury right now. We wouldn't be talking about Fury. That's for sure. But the referee started to count, even though the guy just stayed there, laying there, still as a board. And I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you what was going on for me. He was, you know how they talk about when somebody's about to die, they see their life revisited in front of them? he was seeing his last 3 years revisited in front of him. Yeah, I know you only got 10 seconds. I get it. But that 10 seconds sometimes can last 10 years. And he's laying there and he's seeing those last 3 years of his life. And before it got to 10, he made a decision, a choice between life and death. I'm not talking about physical, but life and death. Do you want to live? Do you want to die? You want to just exist? Or you want to be alive? He made a choice to be alive. He made a choice to live. Right there, he popped up and he said, I want to live. I want to live. And I want to win. And I want to be everything I could freaking be now. And he went out there and he won the rest of that round. And he won himself a $100 million contract with ESPN by getting up. And then, of course, he won a couple fights with that contract. And then he fought the rematch. And he obviously won by knockout and then set up the trilogy. That was the difference. He was fighting a guy, Wilder, that not only was technically a better fighter, but was a guy who found his soul. Was a guy who went to that place. He's a guy who, quite frankly, when he was laying there for those 8 seconds before he started to move, basically said, F you to the devil, go to hell. That's who he was fighting. A guy who said, I don't curse on this show, even though I know we're allowed to, but F you to the devil, go to hell. And that was the difference. That he was fighting a guy that had what he was looking for, that had what he was in search of. He already found it. He already went and captured it. He already discovered that he could go to those dark places, that he earned the right to live. He earned the right to feel the way he wanted to feel, to say, I matter. Because for 3 years, he didn't know if he mattered. And that's what Wilder was going through. Do I matter? Was I ever anything? Was I ever more than a freaking puncher knocking over, guys? Was I ever more than that? Yeah, you are more than that, Mr. Wilder. You and me were never great friends, anything. We have different thoughts about things, and quite frankly, I don't think you have the greatest personality. And there's probably some people that don't think I have the greatest personality in the world that they don't agree with. Probably, I believe it or not, I don't know. There might be one out there somewhere. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we could ever find one, but we might. But I want to give you your due. Yeah, I know you lost, but you won. You're a champion in my book. You're a champion in my book. And you found what you were looking for. You found it. And I want to give you credit for it. I want to give you all the freaking credit in the world, Mr. Wilder.